to episode 2 with Pastor Heron from Harvest Baptist Church, and we're here Christmas night. Thank you for taking time out of your busy Christmas
Thank you.
evening to be with us tonight. This is an important subject, of course, our continuation regarding, of course, suicide prevention.
Yeah. Well,
Pastor.
first of all, Merry Christmas
Merry
to
Christmas.
you, Jess. And when this is aired on a day that is, I hope it's been filled with joy and presence and
Sure.
good times. I at Harvest, we've always felt comfortable in saying, let's enjoy the spirit of Christmas,
That's right.
but also know the spirit of Christ.
That's right.
And I'm thankful for an island that knows how to celebrate Christmas with the lights and all that comes with that. So it's a little bit of a juxtaposing between all this happiness and heartache
Sure, sure.
and continuation of this topic of suicide. I think of a verse out of Proverbs 17:22. A merry heart doeth good like medicine. This time of year, a merry heart. So hence the Merry Christmas.
right.
What a great thing. And it does good like medicine. But there's a second component to that proverb that says, but a broken spirit dries the bones. A broken spirit dries the bones.
right.
So it tells us that there is a spirit of man. So internally, things that go on affect us externally. Our own spirit, if it's not one of merriment, and it becomes one of depression and discouragement, leads a person to physically not feeling good. There's another verse in Proverbs 18:14 that says, the spirit of a man sustains his infirmity. In other words, when we physically or emotionally, mentally, there's some infirmities there, we have a drive inside of us to want to be alive. We don't want to end up ending it all. But he says, a wounded spirit who can bear? Is it possible for a person internally to be wounded? It's kind of like the guy in a battlefield, and the picture is somebody, when a man is wounded, boy, they're dangerous.
Sure, sure, sure.
Versus a person that is broken that says, I need help, get me a medic.
Yeah.
Okay. So on a Christmas day,
Sure.
this topic is important because there have been people in the past that actually are godly people, may I add, that God used in great ways, even in days like holidays, that struggled with, we could call it the internal demons inside of them,
Sure,
their
sure.
thinking. I think of a guy named William Cooper,
Okay.
who 1730s in that neighborhood, and I'm sorry I don't have all the exact details, but born in that day, became very good friends with a guy named John Newton with Amazing Grace, How Sweet the Sound, and they've
Sure,
been very
sure,
close
sure,
friends in their 40s now. And Cooper's brother had died, and it sent him emotionally into this real tailspin. I find the people that have the greatest moments of ecstasy in mountaintop experiences also the ones that are very susceptible to the low valley of feelings, in which this dark valley is the ones in which, man, that's not worth living. And Cooper was one.
Sure. Now, Pastor, when you know, there are a lot of folks out there when times of great despair and the darkest moments, or maybe the survivors will say, but why? But why? But why? And we talk, of course, today being Christmas Day, most glorious of days, okay? And so the individual may say, or will say, the most glorious of days, why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me? I mean, I'm sure folks, I mean, you've encountered questions such as that
And
in the most glorious of days.
And I try and ask the question, tell me about what you're thinking. Where is your thoughts taking you? And is it your thoughts? Is it your emotions? Is it something else that's happening? Often is the case, I find, that a person that's going through a lot of this, and again, I'm not the expert, and those in the mental health field, so I'm not, you know, I'm the expert, but I do find that if I can get a person back to what's driving this, okay, and can I put it into a couple of categories, and so maybe it's not that simple, but I do know that when I look at another example in the Bible, like Jeremiah. He's known as the weeping prophet. Why is he known as a weeping prophet? Well, he was in a day of Israel that there is great unrest, turmoil, national struggle, the nation itself. Jeremiah was there to say, you guys need to get things right. You're going to end up, it's going to be great consequences, and it was. And he ended up saying in Jeremiah 17, he said, let me give you two pictures. One is a man, you're trusting in man. Blessed is the man that trusts in the Lord. But he does says, when you trust in man, cursed is the person that trusts in man, and it makes flesh his arm, his heart departs. Listen, here's the illustration. He's like a juniper or heath in the desert. He's this picture, the small little bush in the desert, and when you end up trusting in men, you trust in yourself, you trust in your emotions, you trust, I can do all this. Somewhere along, people get to the place realize, I don't have it. I can't do this. I don't have enough. And those times of, where do I turn? They start turning inward, and it only gets worse. It gets darker. Their thoughts aren't ones. Fact is, later he says, the heart is deceitful and desperately wicked. Who could know it? Jeremiah 17:10. Here's a picture of an insecure man. He's putting his trust in something can be taken away. A definition of insecurity is a person that is putting their trust or confidence something be taken away. In contrast to, blessed is the man that trusts in the Lord. The Lord can't be taken away. I don't want to oversimplify it, Jess, but when I look at the Bible, I end up finding that this is one of two categories of people. Now, let me, you asked, so let me tell you, here's what I would say to a guy. If a person is in a place where I'm trusting myself, my strength, all that I have, my car, my resources, my money.
I did it my way.
All that can be taken away. And we all know people that, like a man the other day that I bumped into, stage 4 cancer. Health, now all of a sudden he has none. So that insecurity, when a person is putting their trust and confidence in everything that they think is going to make them secure, it can be taken away. Insecurity. That leads to a person that now says, okay, I'm going to end up doing all these things to feed this security. So it takes their time, their energy, and really it's a wrong view of how they see life. They're trying to fill this major vacuum. And really what that produces, if you could kind of go like this little cycle, it leads a person to guilt. They feel very guilty.
There are a lot of instances here on the island as well as other areas as well that people who commit suicide are because of, again, rejection or couples leaving, and not just maybe husband and wife, but boyfriend and girlfriend. We see this a lot in teenage suicide.
Well, I want to get to that teenage suicide, but can I hold off on it?
Sure.
Because when again, you mentioned about, okay, a boyfriend, a girlfriend. Again, I'm putting my trust, my confidence into a relationship, and that person's going to end up leaving. It leaves me with, where do I go? I can think of a couple individuals on the island over the last 17 years my wife and I have been here that have ended their life because their boyfriend, their girlfriend left me. And they even warned them, you do this. And I've got people that are feeling now guilt the rest of their life because it wasn't them. It was their own insecurity. It was like this little bush in a wilderness when they're dry. It leads them to a wrong priorities of life, leads them to guilt, and that guilt does play on people. And out of the guilt leads them to a very negative view of themselves. How could I have done that? Why did I do that? I shouldn't have done that, which leads them to thoughts of suicide. There is an answer to that, Jess.
Now, but let me go back to last week's show. We talk about the guilt and this you know, I mean, shame,
fear of the future.
That. Now we also talk about the vulnerability, and this is where again where the devil comes in, and this is a great opening for the devil to come in and have you as his playground.
He does. And I do believe that we are susceptible to the forces with our little world. Because when we talk about the devil, and you mentioned it, he's the prince of the power of the air. He was the most created being that God ever created, and his name was Lucifer. And when he decided, I'll ascend to the Most High, Isaiah, then that's exactly the time when he took his greatest fall. And with him, a boatload of bad angels that now are desiring to take all the worship away from who God is and draw it to themselves. Does it